So here we are. This is Q70, 72 square feet. It's our single occupancy unit. It's the most fire resistant in this class of shelter, made almost entirely of metal and non-combustible materials. It's also the most spacious. We have a almost 10-foot interior ceiling peak and just under 700 cubic feet of space inside even the 72 square foot unit. It's better insulated than most people's homes. Exclusively on our shop floor, everybody here has experienced homelessness in their life. We started at this from a design perspective with architectural principles and code compliance as first principles. I'm Dan Bodner. I'm the CEO of QuickHaven, Inc., and standing with me is Tim Craig, my partner and the designer of our units. And together we have founded and created QuickHaven. We are presently in Rohnert Park, California, just a little bit south of Santa Rosa, California, in Northern California. We see back behind us is a unit that we call the Q70. This particular unit is one of our first production units that we use here at our factory. So currently our goal is to do 6 units per week. We are ramping up from 6 units every couple weeks, and we expect within about 6 months period of time we'll be able to triple or quadruple that.
I'm curious about the origins of the project. What was the whole timeline of getting QuickHaven off the ground?
I started thinking about this solution about 4 years ago. I live in Oakland. Oakland has a very large problem. And my commute every day from Oakland to San Francisco was what I always say, a journey through suffering. There were tent encampments, there were people sleeping in the BART train station concourse. There were fires at the encampment and a few people died there. And I just started thinking about how we seem to be not doing anything as a community to solve this problem. When I was commuting from Oakland to San Francisco, I had an IT support company called Fido Systems, which I owned and operated for 20 years. I've always enjoyed working with my hands and creating things that were tangible. I have a lot of experience with renovation, home construction.
You had the building blocks. You knew enough to be dangerous.
Right. At a certain point, after I built a little 3/4 scale corner section in my garage, because that was all that I could fit into my garage, I realized that if I was going to go any further and take this seriously, I needed more talent and skills. And the first person I reached out to was Tim, who used to be a client of mine in the IT space. When his architectural firm that he was managing, he toured my little mock-up in the garage. I think his eyes lit up and he was like, I think he saw a new purpose.
You took him out of retirement?
Yes.
I came out of my second retirement. When Dan presented this idea, my brain started working on how we could really make this thing happen in terms of insulation, fabrication, how we can make it comply with the California Building Code Amendment X, how we can assemble the components. Prior to my sojourn in architecture, I ran a cabinet shop, putting tooling together. I had some experience at manufacturing. Prior to the cabinet shop, I was production manager for a plastics plant. We started putting all those ideas together. We went through 3 prototypes.
Just before the pandemic, yeah. We started at this from a design perspective with architectural principles and code compliance as first principles.
And speak a little more about Amendment X. How does that differ or amend the California Building Code?
Amendment X to the California Building Code was signed into legislation by Jerry Brown, and it specifically addresses transitional housing. The shelter had to be 70 square feet for a single occupant and 50 additional square feet for each additional occupant. That drove the basic footprint of the shelter. Another constraint was being able to flat stack these panels, move them readily, stack these panels in a container and move them to a site. That was another sort of design constraint. One of the other design constraints that we thought was important was to be able to power wash these between uses. So you can power wash each one of these panels after it's disassembled and then reassemble them at another location.
From an architectural design standpoint, what were you aspiring or kind of pulling inspiration from?
The aesthetic appearance of the shelter had to be basically bulletproof, right? The NIMBY argument is going to come up, but I think we can reduce that by designing a shelter that looked more like a home.
So here we are. This is Q70, 72 square feet. It's our single occupancy unit. To our knowledge, it's the most fire resistant in this class of shelter, made almost entirely of metal and non-combustible materials. It is listed as a class 1, fire rated product. Probably among the most durable because of the materials we've selected. It's also the most spacious. We have a almost 10-foot interior ceiling peak and just under 700 cubic feet of space inside even the 72 square foot unit. And we also have a larger unit, which is 122 square feet, and the most insulated. That makes it among the most energy efficient. Our walls are R22, our roof is R32, and our floor is R20.
Oh, so you exceed the R values for permanent building code then too, because I think it's 1530, right, on the walls and the ceiling.
Exactly.
That's great.
This is better insulated than most people's homes.
The panel that we used to assemble this unit is composed of an insulated metal panel that's produced at a factory in Modesto. We cut the panels to size, and then we surround it with standard steel stud construction, which is used to attach the latches that attach the panels together. Insulated metal panel. We surround the insulated metal panels with a standard steel stud track, which holds the latches that attach the panels together when they're assembled into the final product.
People seem to want either the light gray or the dark gray. Here you can see finished panels in both colors.
Can you change the color, or how does that work?
We have a half a dozen different color options that come from the factory, and as well it can be painted. We don't recommend it because it voids the surface warranty. The window is occupied as intended by a window air conditioning unit. Power in this unit comes in from above. However, we also build them so that you can bring in power from below and use the upper junction box for an outside light, which can be switched from inside. There are two 20-amp circuits pre-wired in the structure. It's a 34-inch opening, and it is ADA compliant, and we have ADA door handles as well. Everything in the structure is going to be residential grade or better, including double pane, low E windows, even in the door. The door has a operational mini blind integrated between the panes. We could paint the door a different color for them. They could swap it out. It ships together pre-hung.
The window that you see is a casement window. The reason for that is it's the second means of egress from the shelter. 30 by 40. That makes it compliant with the Appendix X of the building code for shelters.
And the dimensions of this space?
It's 8 foot, 10 and a half, both directions.
Almost 9 feet internal square. This shelf is a new option for us, and that hangs off of the top of the walls. And that you install that before you install the roof. It's easy to repair a hole in sheetrock. It's harder to repair a hole in metal. To combat that, we encourage applying everything magnetically or adhesively. And we have customized window treatments for that purpose. So this makes it super easy to install the window shades after assembly and also prevents damage to the unit. That's just held in magnetically. And so all these posters are also up on there magnetically. Those are magnets holding up the paintings. So these are all neodymium magnets.
If you knock on the wall, what's it sound like?
Let's do some knocking.
So it kind of feels like drywall when you're knocking on it.
Yeah, it's super sturdy. It's also very soundproof. So when you close the door and the windows here, you're gonna feel like you're in a protected structure, which actually I think is psychologically important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like a nice, quiet, safe, structurally sound place.
Here we have the electrical integrated and embedded inside the panel. Outlets up top can be dedicated to the air conditioner. The light switch here controls outside lighting or the integrated LED light. And because it's so small, you can put a little space heater in there, and in 5 minutes time on a cold day, you're comfy. You can cool this space down in about 10 minutes, even when it's sitting out in the blazing sun in 100+ degrees. Well, I don't think that there's a unit that assembles faster than ours as well. It takes about an hour, and that includes leveling the floor to put one of these up, and that is a crew of 3 to 4 people with no more than a hex wrench and a couple step ladders. We have no loose parts of any kind. There are no nuts, bolts, pins, nothing. Everything is integrated into the panels, and literally all you need is a ratchet wrench with the right hex size on it, and no power tools. You don't need any heavy equipment or any other special materials.
Any kind of local crew could figure this out. How do you train people?
Yeah, we have a user manual. We have a setup manual with diagrams and explicit directions on what you need to put one together. And I'm pretty confident that any crew, especially a contractor, could easily do this on their own. We do suggest that we provide one of our people there for the first day or two as guide. People catch on very quickly.
Is that the same material for the roof as it is on the sides?
Yes, it's all insulated metal.
Is the roof like 3 panels then? Or
3 panels, exactly.
So you basically put the 4 walls up and then you go into the center of it and put it in on a stepladder?
So put them up from the outside. We've done it both ways. The corner is held together with a metal post that we fabricate here, and all the seams, all the metal joints are riveted. All the joinery comes down to these little access holes where the hex wrenches fit. This is one of the finished corner posts. They're delivered separately, and then when it's assembled, you put up each panel, and then each corner gets latched in to a corner piece. So you get 2 panels in each of the posts.
So this is the corner piece from here to here.
Yep.
That gets removed. The latches attached together. The rivets stay with the panel.
The Q70 single occupancy is 14 panels. And then the larger unit, I think it's 22 panels.
Is there any work on site for like taping or like doing any kind of waterproofing seaming when they are bolted together?
So once it gets installed, once we get it to the site for installation, we put down weather stripping around the floor joints and weather stripping around the roof joints. That's pretty much sufficient to keep it watertight. There is some caulking you could do to make extra shore around the top seam in the roof and down some of the side panels. We don't deem that as necessary, but some people like that, the added assurance of it. There's a lot of different ways that you can put these things down. What we recommend are these things, which are called deck pedestals. And they are like a screw jack situation that you can add spacers to it, and by spinning it, you can fine tune its height. You could also put down a level concrete slab between the top and the bottom of this pedestal, or between the foundation and a slab. We use rubber pads that are made of 100% recycled tire, and so those are very good for adding friction. For earthquake or shifting.
So basically, the structure doesn't suffer the lateral load of the earthquake. The shear of the earthquake is not transferred to the structure because it's freestanding.
How are you looking at kind of iterating upon this design?
Issues that we dealt with prototype number 1, where we're using corrugated metal exterior skin, was transmitting too much heat through the studs. We moved from that to the insulated metal panel, which does not transmit. So the two metal skins of the insulated metal panel actually don't touch one another. There's a heat sink between them.
Most days we don't do any conditioning in here, and it's just very pleasant and cool. It will eventually heat up, but the thermal properties here are really quite exceptional. We strengthened the hinge side of the door, the whole panel part of the hinge side, and reduced the amount of insulated metal panel material on that hinge side. That gave us the benefit of reducing the amount of waste material from panel cutting. So that was sort of a move toward a greener manufacturing. And we found that some people mistreat the units and hang heavy weights on the doors. So reinforcing the door hinge was also a good move to just make sure that we get the durability we want.
How many units have been deployed to date, and how many projects, and how many cities, and where?
It's been in production for about 6 or 7 months. Right now, we have 27 units deployed in Petaluma, and those have been occupied and fully functional for 4 or 5 months. We have sold units to Sonoma Homeless Action. There are 5 units, but those have not been deployed. And we are currently building our first order of 20 for the city of Portland, Oregon, from a purchase order of 1.5 million, something between 50 and 75. Depends on what sizes they choose.
So these are all being used for the same purpose, transitional shelters for people experiencing homelessness?
Yeah, in a homeless village setting.
When you're reaching out to cities or these nonprofits or social service providers that are deploying these, what is the most misunderstood aspect of the shelter?
Well, it's a typical issue with cities of low bid. They don't look at the total owned cost of the product for duration of its life.
To look at the total value proposition is harder, I think. They look at the initial purchase price, and they may not be properly anticipating operational costs and durability and things like that. Q70 is $19,995, and the Q120, which is 122 square feet, is $31,995. It comes with a 1-year warranty, plus the materials themselves are covered by each manufacturer. The panels have a 20-year warranty on the surface, the paint and the coatings on the surface, and they have a 30-year warranty on the thermal properties of that panel. So that panel actually has to stand up to weather for 30 years to meet that warranty.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about like upfront cost and you spread that over its useful life of, say, 20 years, that's only like $1,000 a year.
If you want to look at it as a long-term asset, the value proposition just skyrockets. Currently, we're focused on the West Coast, but we would entertain bids from anywhere. We are working with our structural engineer on snow load so that we can confidently into snowier regions as well, because of our insulation values and all that. I think we really have a lot to offer there.
So there are 8 flat packed units on a 40-foot flatbed.
We can get 8 to 10 of these on a flatbed truck, as one shipment.
Can the units be transported like as a volumetric modular unit?
They could be moved as an assembled unit, but that's not the most efficient way of moving them.
What is the most innovative aspect of this shelter, in your opinion?
The metal insulated panel construction provides just a whole host of advantages. It's a well-known material in the building industry. So we have a track record on the material. Its performance characteristics are exceptional, provides great insulation, provides fire resistance, and
structural strength.
Yep, and durability. So I would say that That choice of material alone is one of our big innovations.
We're making small incremental revisions that just one increase the productivity and ability to manufacture them more readily and deal with some of the field conditions that we're finding. The Q70 and the Q120 are basically there. We have other Q options in the future.
Well, great. Well, Dan, Tim, thank you so much for the tour.
Thank you.